Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I hope everyone had a productive day today. It's really been a privilege for us to host this conference. I want in particular to thank Associate Attorney General Rachel Brand for her exceptional leadership of this initiative. And I also want to give a special thanks to Patrick Hovakimian, who has been our Master of Ceremonies and has done such a superb job of keeping us on track today, of dealing with some slight delays, and of helping to coordinate this program. We began our day with remarks from Attorney General Jeff Sessions, and we are deeply honored to have as our closing speaker yet another member of the President's Cabinet who is committed to the fight against human trafficking. Kirstjen Nielsen serves as the 6th Homeland Security Secretary. She is a superb leader with a wealth of relevant experience. Last year, she served as the Chief of Staff to the Department of Homeland Security, and she then served as Deputy Chief of Staff to President Trump. In the George W. Bush administration, Secretary Nielsen served as a Senior Director on the Homeland Security Council. In her current role, she supervises several law enforcement agencies that play a critical role in the U.S. government's anti-trafficking efforts, both at the border and at the interior. From Customs and Border Protection to the Coast Guard to the Transportation Security Administration, our Department of Homeland Security is on the front lines of the fight against human trafficking and is one of the Justice Department's most important federal partners. We are very fortunate that DHS has a leader like Secretary Nielsen at the helm, and we are delighted that she was able to join us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Secretary of Homeland Security.
Well, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you all for being part of the summit today. I'd especially like to thank Attorney General Sessions, the Deputy Attorney General, and Rachel for your leadership. It's really very, very important from our perspective at the Department of Homeland Security that we have partners such as those at the Department of Justice to be able to fight this fight together, because that is, in fact, what it requires. So the diversity of voices in the room today, and I wish I had been able to spend the day with you, from law enforcement to nonprofits to the private sector, it's a reminder that human trafficking affects everyone. Most importantly, as I mentioned, it takes that united front to end it and fight it together. Human trafficking is not a third world problem. It's a worldwide problem, and it's happening here in the United States. As I've said before, make no mistake, human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It enslaves people of all ages, sexes, races, and backgrounds, and affects every community. Whether it's sex trafficking, forced labor, or domestic servitude, we know that it's happening here within our very communities. Victims of human trafficking sit beside us on airplanes, trains, and buses. They make the hotel beds we sleep in. They prepare the food we eat. They are often invisible until you look just a little bit closer. And when you do, you see fear, you see hunger, you see bruises, you see desperation and hopelessness. And once you see it, I encourage you not to be silent. But thanks to partners such as the Department of Justice, we are able to bring these folks to justice. Less than 3 weeks ago, a Wisconsin man was sentenced to 21 years in prison. For more than a decade, through physical violence, isolation, emotional manipulation, sexual assault, and threats to victims' families, the man, who does not deserve a name, forced multiple young women and girls to engage in commercial sex acts and perform at exotic dance clubs. His brutality is almost unspeakable. On one occasion, when one of the women he treated like property upset him, he made her choose between two punishments. She could either drown or jump out the window. She chose to jump out the window. After she survived the fall, he kicked her head so hard her teeth fell out. But thanks to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Homeland Security Investigations Unit, the FBI, the Wisconsin Department of Justice, and you're getting my point here in partnership, the Milwaukee Police Department, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Wisconsin, and DOJ Civil Rights Division's Human Trafficking Prosecution Unit, today that monster of a man is behind bars, and there I hope he stays. Unfortunately, stories like this are just far too common, and they don't always end in justice. That's why cooperative actions like today's summit are so important, because we must work together to end this scourge on our communities. At the Department of Homeland Security, the Blue Campaign, and I'm wearing blue in honor of our Blue Campaign. I hope that you all will do that next year in January, which is the month that we at DHS remind everyone of this challenge that we face. The Blue Campaign is our unified effort to raise public consciousness about human trafficking and bring the traffickers to justice. In addition to new public service announcements this year, the Blue Campaign will continue to develop industry toolkits and training products. These products will help you all, private industry, law enforcement stakeholders, and nonprofits recognize the signs of trafficking specific to their line of work. From truck stop cashiers and hotel clerks to police officers and emergency room nurses, we want everyone who interacts with the public to recognize the signs of human trafficking, to know what to look for, and to know whom to report it to if they suspect human trafficking. I ask for your support in the Blue Campaign's efforts. More information can be found on our website. At DHS, I'm proud to say that many components play an important role in countering human trafficking. ICE HSI conducts law enforcement operations for both international and domestic trafficking cases, and ICE victim assistance specialists help trafficking survivors rebuild their lives. USCIS provides eligible non-citizens trafficking victims with immigration relief, and CBP not only identifies victims along our borders, but continues to introduce trailer loads full of illegal aliens in many, many cases who are trafficked into our country, 77 yesterday in just one trailer alone. And our Federal Law Enforcement Training Center teaches law enforcement professionals to identify victims and conduct investigations. DHS is a large department. We are almost 250,000 strong, and we leverage all of our law enforcement capabilities and capacity to target traffickers and disrupt and dismantle their criminal enterprises throughout their pathways all throughout the world. I'm sure you've talked a little bit today about transnational criminal organizations, but I would just like to add my voice to this specific part of the threat. TCOs are using their networks to smuggle dangerous drugs, illegal aliens, and potential terrorists into our country. These TCOs have no concern for human lives, and they're solely motivated by profit and violence. These networks are significant and persistent, and we're working tirelessly to stop them. But know that they also traffic in human souls. There are many, many reasons that the Department of Justice has made this a priority to fight, and we join their fight at the Department of Homeland Security. One example of how we have supported the fight is Operation Safe Haven, an investigation into a loosely affiliated organization that coordinated the illegal movement of women from Mexico and Central America across the southern border and throughout the United States. In a single day, after a 15-month investigation, federal authorities were able to arrest 29 people in 13 cities in 8 states. Law enforcement officers also rescued 15 victims. As the ICE special agent in charge in Atlanta said, this investigation identified women victimized through fraud, force, and coercion, including underage teens. To the criminals behind these illegal enterprises, these women are just objects to pull a quick profit and then discarded or passed on to the next trafficker down the line. As we see in Operation Safe Haven, while human trafficking and human smuggling are not synonymous, people who are illegally smuggled into this country are easy for traffickers to prey on, and that's the connection that we at the Department of Homeland Security are looking at. Because these people who are smuggled have nowhere to turn, they live in the shadows, they have no legal protections, they make the perfect victims for the traffickers as they continue to do their harm in our country. We're taking on the TCOs who exploit human beings, help terrorists enter our country, and pollute our communities with drugs. We are intercepting them at our borders, interdicting them on our seas, arresting them in our cities, and pursuing them to the ends of the earth. I would like to take one more moment to thank our partners at DOJ for the important role that they play. In 2017, the Department secured convictions against 499 defendants in federal human trafficking prosecutions. 471 of these predominantly involved sex trafficking and 28 labor trafficking. Several investigations, unfortunately, involved both. Through investigations and prosecutions, the Department of Justice is an invaluable partner and ally, and we thank them for that. Moving forward together, we are making it harder for criminals such as human traffickers to thrive. But to secure our homeland, we need to significantly change our approach to border security and immigration. I was just at the National Targeting Center with the President, where we discussed the challenges that this poses and some proposed solution. As you may have seen, the President outlined a generous proposal last week and a framework to prepare both our immigration system and to secure our borders. We're committed to securing our borders and ending the pull factors for illegal migrations that actually make trafficking easy. To begin with, we must secure the border. We need a border wall system. Walls work. We've talked a lot about walls, but when I say a wall system, it's not just the infrastructure, but it's also the technology and the personnel. And importantly, it's closing the legal loopholes that prevent my agents who put their lives on the line every day from being able to remove those they apprehend at the border. So we've proposed both technology, the infrastructure, personnel, and the closing of the legal loopholes that exploit our system and enable the traffickers and smugglers to succeed. We seek a legislative solution to end these restrictions, and we ask also for the mandatory detention for aliens who've convicted of a crime, or who otherwise pose a threat. One of the little-known loopholes in our system is those with gang affiliations who we find also are very involved in the trafficking trade. By virtue of their gang affiliation, or even if they are suspected of a crime, we at DHS are restricted from removing them or using that as an inadmissibility criteria at the border. These are the loopholes we're looking to change. And instead of asking immigrants what they can do when we look at illegal immigration, we want to ask what they can do for our country. And as you've seen in the President's proposal, we're looking to change the way that we do legal immigration as well. So through these priorities, we'll secure our borders, we'll be able to enforce our laws, and we'll create a border security that prevents traffickers from easy access in and out. By empowering law enforcement officers to do their jobs and providing them the tools that they need, we can more effectively combat this together. I ask you to be part of our team, part of this greater global fight. Our work is far from over, and I ask you to join us. I'd like to share a quote from April, who's not her real name, but who was a human trafficking survivor in an FBI and HSI joint investigation. She said, "I was 15 at the time and was a runaway. I never called the police because I felt that it was my fault. I felt at the time like I had to stay. You know, you have to have your self-worth. I did not. It's okay to ask for help. We were victims. You can have the worst past, but that doesn't mean you can't have a successful future. Together, we can help those such as April and countless others like her have a successful future. Together, we can help bring traffickers to justice. Together, we can help stop human trafficking." I thank you for your time. It's crucial that we have partnerships such as yours. We need to hear your voices and perspectives, the capacity, capabilities you can offer, the best practices of what's working, what we can do better at the federal level. And I just want to again thank DOJ for hosting and for leading us in this fight. Thank you all very much for your time.